We do know that Governor Cuomo has resigned. He denies actual sexual harassment. There's claims from 11 different women. And, there's a push and pull, Amisha. Some people are like, okay, he was trifling, but I'm mad that we still had Donald Trump for 4 years, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan. There's a wild double standard here. So I want to just own that. I think we all get that. We all get, yes, it's frustrating as hell. It appears, I mean, look at Al Franken. That scenario was just wild to me. But then on the flip side of it, I was getting callers who appeared to be pointing the fingers at women. Yeah. And I want to play this clip respectfully. And I want Amisha to respond to it. And this is Angela from New York. This is a brief clip of her. She called in and had a perspective that, to be honest with you, I wasn't ready for. Listen to this.
I have a serious problem as a woman. This message that women are so helpless and they're so can't do anything, somebody's touching you and all that. That's number one. Number two, everything is built on this whole idea of selling women sexually. Videos, TV, movies. How many men take off their clothes and show their private parts in these feature films as the brand name actors? But these actresses, they all are required to do that. There is such a tangling web of craziness around this whole sexual thing. Women use it when this benefits them, and when it doesn't, then they cry wolf. And I'm a woman. I'm telling you, I know that there are people who get harassed, but if the Democrats were as vigorous with this racial stuff that they do with me, people could get shot dead, and they don't have as much energy to move forward as they do with somebody touching some woman's breast. It's like, give me a freaking break. So I'm saying that this is one thing if somebody's married and all that, but you go into a single man's, but I mean, it's like all these,
well, she was ordered to go there to fix his cell phone. She was ordered to go there because to fix his cell phone. That was an order. And he allegedly grabbed her breasts and touched her inappropriately.
What I'm saying is that women turn this faucet on and off as it suits them. I hear you. Nobody has a right to do anything to you that you don't allow them or you want them to do. But women, it's like, I used to teach high school and I used to ask these girls, they said, wearing these low cut blouses. I'm saying, well, why? Because I wouldn't look sexy. I'm saying, but what does that mean? You want somebody to want to have sex with you? That's what sexy means, that you want to entice them to have sex with you. But then you're going to cry, well, if it's not the right one. It's like, it's confusing. And he's an old guy who's, even though he is humorous, he is from that generation where men, this is how they were brought up.
Angela, respectfully, Miss Angela, I'm saying this to you respectfully. I think you're justifying it. And I think that, and I'm saying this to you respectfully, I think that you're giving him a pass. Amisha, just going to give you the mic.
There's a lot there to unpack. First, she was comparing apples to oranges, but there's also this idea that if a woman is attractive or she dresses in an attractive way, that's welcoming the negative attention as well as the abuse of a man. And I firmly push back against that. But with that being said, as somebody who has worked in politics since I was 17 years old, the level and the prowess that these older men have in high elected positions, those who are in executive level positions, those who are governors, mayors, you name it, those who are big fundraisers or donors for them, they treat having younger women in those offices as if we are the playthings for them. And to be honest, as someone who has also been touched, as someone who, really came out yesterday and was actually forcefully upset by Cuomo's press conference, because in it, he did not speak to the issues associated with why he has these allegations against him of 11 women who honestly sound very similar in what they're saying about him and this pattern of behavior he had over years. Be mindful that while we're thinking about this New York incident, we also have to understand that this comes over a course of a very long time period. Andrew Cuomo was known throughout New York for basically using his prowess, using his power, using his name to assert force upon women, be it whether he was grabbing them, touching them, groping them, or saying things that were suggestive and just not appropriate in nature. Also, to the caller's point, doesn't she realize that this was in a workplace? We have to remember this wasn't somebody who met a girl at a bar. It still would have been wrong to grope, do any of this, but there's an entirely different level of protections for those who are in a workplace. And not only was he bothering subordinates, he was also someone who ensured that the staff around him was silencing these people. be it whether they got moved to other posts or whether they were using fear tactics to prevent them from speaking. And it happens in offices across the country, be it on either political side of the aisle, but also in private sector businesses, also in, it doesn't matter how much you make or what level of business you're in. If you're a younger woman, or you're a woman that somebody deems as attractive, or you're a woman who is a little bit more voluptuous, whatever it is, there is always this thing in your head, because you have seen it time and time again, where there's an aggressive male, and oftentimes you are in a position that is much lower than theirs. So the fear of reprisals, the fear of getting fired, the fear of not moving up in your career often prevents women from actually stepping up and saying something. And I think that where there's smoke, there's fire. When one woman came out against Cuomo back a few months ago, a lot of people did not stand up for her. A lot of people stood on the sidelines and wanted to see what was going to happen next, or what was going to come out of this report. That one woman turned to 11. And where there's 11, there's probably 3 or 4 dozen more. Those people have decided to, for whatever reason, in large part because many of them probably have families and don't want their faces on the news, or because they're in other positions currently, they have decided to remain silent, like many women do who go through this every day. It bothers me that we had a female caller come in and basically toe the line of every abuser I have ever heard. Well, in videos and movies, women are showing themselves. What do you expect from us? Their bodies are here. That doesn't give you the freedom to touch somebody. My body is mine. And as that, you don't have the right to come up and grope me. You don't have the right to ask me things about my sexual experiences. You don't have the right to invite yourself to me. That is inappropriate. And I think that there is a strict line drawn there. There is no gray area for what Andrew Cuomo is accused of. None whatsoever. I would suggest that woman read that 165 report in its entirety, because each of these women has a very solid case. And some of them are even pressing criminal charges. Because guess what? You can't just go around groping people. That's not a thing that we can do in this country.
And what about Tish James? This wasn't some, person out to get her. This is Tish James, the first Black woman Attorney General of New York. This is somebody who's on Cuomo's, who has been supported by Cuomo. This is not some random out to get him, drag him down report. I mean, the messenger is somebody who I believe we can trust. Go ahead.
Absolutely. She did her due diligence. She investigated this thing to the kill, and she found other people. She even found people within Cuomo's office who could corroborate these stories. This was a very thorough investigation. These women are not making things up. They were found extremely credible. They had text messages. They had notes. They had other people they told during the time that this actually happened who literally have transcripts of those conversations. None of this was just created out of the darkness. The part that caller said that really got to me, though, I mean, aside from the entire call, was on generational and cultural issues, because those were 2 of the key terms that we heard used from Cuomo yesterday in his non-forgiveness, non-accepting responsibility resignation. This is not a generational or cultural issue. A man grabbing a woman's boobs in the 30s, 40s, 50s at work was just as wrong as it is in 2021. Like, let's not get it twisted here. Let's be completely honest. Just because women had no rights then and their voices were not listened to did not make it any more right to do that or any less egregious. We are in an environment where women are the predominant group in the workforce today. We are. We're not necessarily the biggest in terms of leadership positions, but we go to work every single day, and we should be able to go to work, earn our paycheck, do our jobs, exhibit our talents and skills without having to worry about some creepy old man, young man, whatever his age group is, coming to bother us and to take advantage of our bodies and our presence.
And it's interesting, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that Governor Cuomo and R. Kelly are the same, but here we are this week, the R. Kelly trial begins. After, I guess we could say, decades of accusations. The 20th anniversary of Aaliyah's death is on August 25th. And of course, we all know, I don't even got to say allegedly at this point, R. Kelly married Aaliyah. The marriage certificate was published in Vibe magazine in the mid-90s. And even within R. Kelly, a lot of his defenders, I found them, they were women. They were women defending R. Kelly, with a marriage certificate, with a video of him allegedly peeing on a child. Like, and it's women that I'm seeing doing this. So it's sad to me. I don't know why
the biggest antithetical The biggest antithetical to the Me Too movement isn't men. It has always been women. At the end of the day, there are so many women who will fall on the sword of if a woman's behavior was different, if a woman looked different, if a woman didn't put herself in that environment, that she would not have been attacked. Even if that woman is a child, even if that woman, her putting herself in that position means her going to her job and going to her office every day. There are women who literally stand as shields to dangerous men on a regular basis. And as long as they do that, I don't think the Me Too movement is going to be effective. Because as you said, most of the folks who I see standing out in support of Cuomo or calling these women liars or trying to in some way defend this behavior, same thing with R. Kelly, same thing with Matt Gaetz, same thing with so on and so forth, they are females. And that is a problem because at the end of the day, I don't know whether they segment themselves from the women who've actually been abused or whether I don't know what it will take for them to understand that this happens every day. Does it have to happen to one of the women they know? I have no idea. And the odds are it already has. We know that in America, 1 in 2 women have been sexually harassed or sexually abused, many of them starting in childhood. So we all know somebody who has gone through it, whether they've been open about it or not. I think that women just need to do better at supporting women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, and also, is Cuomo, is that the hill you want to die on? He's going to be fine. I said it yesterday. He's going home in his bed made of money. He's going to be okay. He's not his brother, even if his brother leaves CNN, he's going to be okay. This is not, and he pretty much did his full term. I mean, his term ends next year. He's been in office since 2011. He's going to be all right. I mean, do I think he was a good governor in many ways of New York? Yeah, but two things can exist at once. Two things can
Exactly.
exist.
In the same way that we've talked about this in relation to Bill Cosby. He had a great body of work when it came to acting, producing, directing. On that same token, on a personal level, he was a shitty human being and he abused women. That two things can be equivalent at the same time without it, delineating or causing problems with one. I would argue that Andrew Cuomo was a very strong governor for the state of New York. He had a lot of wins and a lot of production that actually helped people across the state of New York and actually set the standard for many other states when it came to people who tried to emulate what he was doing policy-wise in New York. That doesn't mean that he wasn't also abusing power. But to your point, Clay, at the end of the day, this is a man who comes from generational wealth. This is a man who comes from generational power.
Dynasty.
I'm not going to shed a tear over Andrew Cuomo. The only reason he resigned was because he didn't have any Democratic support to avoid impeachment. And because if you avoid impeachment, that means that you could possibly run again in the future for another space. This guy, the hubris here is so high. His level of esteem and worth within himself is ridiculous because I don't think that he fully understands the level of high hell he happens to be in. It isn't just about the civil trials, which we're going to see those civil charges come out very soon from all 11 women, but it's also about the criminal ones that we've seen at least one woman bring forth, possibly another in the near future. And this is going to get drug out for a while. Both of those issues on the sexual harassment and sexual assault front, but also on the book deal front and all of the shady dealings that went along with that and the hospital crisis. There's a lot going on here that Cuomo's going to have to deal with long term. These women, that was a nail in the coffin to a career that was already upended.
And listen, I said it before, I'll say it again. I know women who wear tight, sexy clothes and they get harassed by men. I know women who are dressed like a freaking nun and they get harassed by men. I talk about my mother. I was saying this yesterday, Amisha. My mother used to wear a fake wedding ring on her hand. So if a man approached her, she could just say, "I'm married," and hope, this is back in the day when she was, young thing, but would hope that the man would just leave her alone. Right? Like I know plenty of women who have done that. Like, what can I do? I should be able to.
I did it. I have done it. I am not married, but I would wear my grandmother's wedding ring in Chicago because I did not want men to approach me because they do not understand the level of aggression and the level of fear as a single person. when you're walking down the street or you're going to a CVS and it is nighttime and some random guy who you're not paying attention to continues to try to solicit a response from you, a sexual response, tries to touch you, and there's nobody around. At the end of the day, sometimes the ring works. Sometimes they're like, well, he's not with you now. And like they just continue to keep going. So when I hear women like the caller that you played at the top of this show, part of me says, well, maybe it didn't happen to her. Maybe she, in her own mind, isn't as attractive as the women who it does happen to. That's a personal problem. But it does happen to many women, and not just women, it happens to children. I have worked in the public school system myself, and I have watched male teachers prey on kids. I've seen genders, I've seen driver's ed teachers. Let's not act like this doesn't happen, because it happens every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll say this. I just hope that we can allow women, allow girls to be exactly who they are. And if a predator comes along, that is the fault of the predator. There's no way, shape, or form you can blame women for that. I said this earlier. Men have to know, powerful men have to know. I've never been sexually harassed. Then again, I'm a 6'1" guy, but nonetheless, I couldn't imagine working for the governor of New York, and he's being handsy. Like, I just don't know. Listen, and I've been in the room with some powerful people, and some powerful people can be intimidating to me. So I don't know what's that like, what it's like when that powerful person is your boss. You work in New York. Maybe you live in New York City. You're in your 20s. It's expensive as hell. You don't want your job to be threatened. You're like, oh my, I can't imagine what that's like. And then to have finally appears some kind of justice, if you will, and there are folks insinuating or implying that you brought it upon yourself, and look at all these women in music videos. Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion has nothing to do with Andrew Cuomo or, Bill Clinton or JFK or Bobby Kennedy, or Donald Trump or Jim Jordan or Matt Gaetz. Close us out, Amisha.
Also, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, no matter what they showcase in their videos, they too should be able to walk down the street and not get attacked by a man. Like, let's just cut it and get to the point here. And it is that you should be able to exist in a female body and not have to worry about sexual harassment and sexual assault. There is no dress code to sexual harassment or sexual assault. There is no culture to sexual harassment or sexual assault. It happens to women of various ages. It happens to women of various backgrounds. It happens to women of various colors. We have to do better as a society in not throwing women aside or acting as though it is their fault when these things happen, or just not believing them at all, because it pushes women and their experiences into the shadows. We hurt generations of women and girls by acting as though their experiences are not valid.
And where has respectability got us? I always say this. Black men were lynched in their uniforms when they came back from World War II. Philando Castile was shot and killed in his car on Facebook Live. He was a teacher and had a legal firearm in his glove compartment and told the police officer that. You could be sexually harassed just when it comes with race as well. You could be presenting the right way, being quote unquote respectable, and you could still be harassed. You could still be assaulted. You could still lose your life. You could still be raped. Come on. Let's
not again forget the power play here. We're talking about the governor of New York, the most powerful position in the state of New York, one of the most powerful political positions in this country. New York matters as a state. To have the governor, who's the head of that, come after you as a 23, 24, 25-year-old young girl, that is a very different type of power play and position. This man can not only ruin your career there, he can and has the possibility to end your career any place you go. And again, based on that caller, all he can say is who's going to believe you. And he has that leg to stand on because women across this country make it capable for him to do so.
Well said. Well said. And what I've always said, I don't believe anybody automatically. Part of the reason I do Exonerated, I do all these stories of people who have lied. But I do believe in taking an accusation seriously and doing an investigation. And that's what was done. I don't think someone said something, just believe them. Do an investigation. And Andrew Cuomo is not going to go to jail like Herman Atkins did in the next hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to die on the hill, die on the right hill.